I'm Carri Goldring with the Divorce Lending Association, and I'm a Certified Divorce Lending Professional, or CDLP for short. This is part of our Divorce Literacy series, and today I'm here with Mark Ivezaj. Mark, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Carri. Mark Ivezaj. I am a financial advisor and also a certified divorce financial analyst, or CDFA for short. Basically, we help clients with all things that are divorce and finance related. And my main office is in Troy, Michigan. We got a couple satellite offices across the state. I work with two other advisors on my team, one other CDFA as well.
That's fabulous. And so let's say someone's going to call you, they're going through a divorce, they were either referred to you, from how they found you themselves, or an attorney sends them your way. What do you do? What do you help with? What do you start with? What comes up?
Yeah, again, kind of like I said, anything that is financially related is something that we can and do talk about, whether that's tax implications, whether it's investment accounts, whether it's hidden assets. If you think there's a waste claim, for example, you got a spouse who's been unfaithful and spending a whole lot of money on the new boyfriend or girlfriend, we're able to kind of track what's going on. So literally anything that is financially related, we're going to be able to take a look at. And the more complex the situation, the more there can be involved there. That's
fabulous. And what would you say the biggest issue is that you tackle?
Yeah, I would say there's two major issues that we see. So number one, we typically work with the non-financial spouse, the non-CEO, who's typically not not knowledgeable when it comes to finances. And the number one thing, there's really two of them, but number one is, am I going to be okay? And I think when you're the non-financial spouse, you're just unsure of what the future is going to hold. Whether you got a lot of money or a little bit of money, a lot of times it doesn't really matter, because there's so many things involved in figuring out, am I going to be okay from a finance standpoint? And a CDFA is pretty much the only person who can figure that out for you. Definitely your attorney is not the person to ask, am I going to be okay? Because they're not the numbers people, and they can't do the projections for the future. And kind of 1B would be for those who have kids. In a lot of cases, obviously we're dealing with situations with younger kids. It's keeping the house. I want to keep the house, right? And I want to keep it a lot of times for the kids, so the kids have stability. And so it's up to us to figure out, should they be keeping the house? And that's frankly, obviously, where we love to work with you on figuring out what they can qualify for, what they can't, and frankly, should they be keeping the house from a financial standpoint.
That makes sense. So if I was working with you and I was someone who wasn't real comfortable with my finances or didn't know where all my finances are, should I be embarrassed to come to you and be like, oh, I don't know anything?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say you might feel that way, but absolutely not. Because I think the reality is, when you're married, everybody has different strengths, and none of us can do everything 100%, right? There's a reason you got married, and frequently in marriages, one person starts to take over one side of the household duties, and another person takes over another side of the household duties. And it is absolutely normal that one person takes over the finances. And if you are not the financial spouse, there is absolutely no shame in that. Most people are more than capable of figuring it out, but obviously during a divorce, it's a very challenging time. It's an emotional time. It's a difficult time. And so, to your point, embarrassment can definitely be part of it, but it shouldn't be, because it was just delegating that part of your life to somebody else. We all delegate things every single day, right? I didn't build my car. I didn't go acquire all of my gas out of the ground, right? We all are delegating everything every single day. And that is just one piece of life that has been delegated to somebody else. No embarrassment in that, as far as I'm concerned.
That's good, because I could see where that could be totally intimidating. I mean, it's intimidating enough, right, to share your finances with somebody, and then when you don't really know what they are, or you're not really sure, then it makes it even harder.
Yep, absolutely. And so that kind of comes back to the first point of, am I going to be okay? If you don't know what's happening with the finances, this is typically the number one thing that holds up your divorce. Is if you don't know if you're going to be okay, how can you make any other decision? How can you decide if I want this 401k versus the house versus the up north home versus the pension? It's impossible, right? You're going in absolutely blind, and having an understanding, basic understanding around what finances look like, what they all mean. That's where we come in, and we provide very kind of elementary level education on everything. And my team and I are very understanding that the non-financial spouse needs simple education. That's something we pride ourselves on. We take very complex situations and turn them into very basic, simple ways to understand a particular topic.
That's great. What I find when I work with people, a lot of times I get my spouse said I can't afford to keep my house. My spouse said I can't get any of their 401k money because it's just in their name, or they have all these ideas and they've been believing, someone that they've been living with for so long that sometimes you just have to debunk some of that stuff.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because in some cases that spouse, your soon to be ex-spouse might believe those things as well. And they might not be trying to do it maliciously. And in some cases they might be doing it maliciously, right? And so it's important to get a third person or a third party perspective who is a professional, who is a specialist in a particular area. So for example, what I do as a CDFA, there's tons of financial advisors out there, but there are very few CDFAs and very few people qualified to help somebody go through a divorce from a financial perspective, exactly like what you do, right? There's tons of mortgage individuals out there, but very few people with divorce specialization. That's who people really need to talk to, is somebody who has an expertise.
That's so true. So what got you into this divorce world in the first place? How'd you end up here?
It's a good question. I'll give you the short version. I think a lot of people who are going through a divorce, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, everybody knows it's a difficult time. It's a challenging time. I'm not necessarily an advocate for divorce, but if somebody is going through one, I want to be able to help in the best way possible to minimize the damage of the divorce to a family core. And so I'm very family oriented. I'm very kid focused and taking care of kids. And obviously the divorce is incredibly difficult on little kids. And that's kind of what got me into this is trying to help the non-financial spouse be in a better situation so that they're able to be a better parent to their kids, right? And if you're focused on money, which a lot of times is the primary reason for divorce,
right?
You're not able to be the best parent that you can be. Obviously, anybody who has kids knows that being a parent is hard enough, let alone factoring in, financial stress and financial worry. And so if we are able to help that individual better understand their finances, my hope is that they can be a better parent. And that's ultimately why I got into helping out in this arena.
And I know you're really, really good at it. And anyone who works with you always is so thankful for what you do for them. So if we had to come up with like one myth or one something that you would say you're kind of like debunking all the time, is there something that you can think of that you could share?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest one is I don't have enough money to hire somebody who's a CDFA. I think if there are no assets, and you don't have a 401k, a pension, housing, sure, that probably is the case. But if you do have any amount of substantial assets or inheritance or business, right? If there's any complexity to somebody's situation, there's an opportunity to make a mistake. And I think it's worth a phone call to a CDFA to see if you should be hiring one or not. I have no problem telling somebody, yeah, you don't need one. You don't need to hire me or any CDFA. So I think it is important for people to know that resources like you or like I exist so that we can help them better understand what their options are if they should speak and hire an expert.
So someone could call you free of charge and just ask questions and see if what you do is good for them or not good for them.
Yeah, so we basically will have an initial 30-minute consultation to talk about their situation a little bit, see if it's a good fit for us to work with them, and see if we're able to help them in any capacity. If we're not able to help them, maybe they need a business valuator, right? I don't do business valuation, but I work with some of the best business valuators in the area. Or, for example, they don't have a whole lot of financial stuff, but they got a house. And their only concern is, am I keeping the house or not, right? That's where I'm going to come and say, hey, I need you to call Carri. Carri's going to take care of you. Or there's different issues that people have that we're able to provide value. We might not be the right person to hire, but we can provide value, right? It's all about, again, finding the right experts. And I think a lot of people don't know that. And I'll say one more, which is when you're looking for an attorney, I find a lot of times individuals will hire attorneys that don't specialize in family law, and they might dabble in 5 or 6 or 7 types of law. This is a very challenging time of your life. Again, it is my opinion, you should always be hiring an expert to do something that they specialize in. And so I would defer to say, make sure you're hiring somebody who is a family law attorney, and that's their specialty. The majority of what they do is family law.
It's true. I agree with that, because sometimes you get the family friend or whatnot who's going to help out, and they don't really help out any. It just gets more frustrating. So with all that being said, and thank you so much for doing this with me, someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to find you?
You can type in my name into Google, and I'm pretty much will pop up. But you can also call us at our 877-660-5080 number. I'm on obviously LinkedIn, and people can feel free to give us a call and schedule some time.
Mark, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Carri.